Part 46. Infinite Doomsday Start Draws Luodu Mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 451. Tia kicked out a dragon tail move in the air with her hind legs, causing an explosion there. With the help of the shockwave of the explosion, she pushed hard with her hind legs again, as if she was stepping on a stepping stone called explosion, and climbed up again. Seeing that she actually used this move to make the accident of kicking empty with her hind legs invisible, Mephisto couldn't help but secretly exclaimed. But at the same time, he was also relieved. Because Tia Polo didn't perform completely lame, which meant that she was not pretending. Ruger, yes, you are right. It is really amazing that she can solve her own problems with that kind of natural special skills, which shows her super high combat awareness. However, in Mephisto's view, this combat awareness is not enough to make up for the difference in the total amount of Demon God's origin. And although he lost half of the Demon God's origin, he is much stronger than Tia Polo, who has just merged and revived, and has also switched factions on his own, resulting in less than 1/3 of the original Demon God's origin. He was planning to use his strength to defeat his opponent's skill, and to use his stronger internal strength to suppress him. So, the thunderstorm that had been triggered but not yet released drifted towards Tia Polo. At the same time, the black cloud also sent out the first lightning spear towards her. Then there was the second, the third, and even the 10th. This group of lightning spears from the thunderstorm was indeed the magic released by the hateful demon Mephisto. Not to mention how fast, accurate and how much damage those lightning spears could do in a single shot. Even if Tia dodged it and hit the wall, the lightning paralysis effect emitted by it even made Anya on the ground tremble twice. This powerful debuff effect alone far exceeded the general physical level of lightning. It seems a bit cliché to say that it should be replaced with magic lightning, but it is almost the same. The lightning spears that hit the wall between the second and first floors could even reach Anya's feet a few meters away, and could also penetrate her lambskin boots, causing her to be paralyzed. Anya is a witch mage who practices both ice and lightning. If this thing hits Tia Polo directly, even though her magic resistance is much higher than Anya, who is an ordinary Nephilim, the final effect is not much different. It is a little stronger than the evil spirit entanglement effect in the previous demon skull missile. This time, she didn't need to perform, and she really kicked in the air. Because of the lightning paralysis, her muscles were a little weak, and her whole person, well, the whole dragon, fell down a layer. But her forearm claws were still embedded in the wall, and at this time, she was pulled down by the weight of her body, performing a cat claw scratching glass style beautiful movement for everyone. Now, let alone others, even Mephisto subconsciously covered his ears. Taking advantage of the opportunity that Mephisto was attracted by Tia, Ruger also contacted Sarah on the other side. Although Sarah learned from Tia that Ruger was fine, she was still overjoyed to hear the news directly from him. The iron armor transformed into the goddess armor on her body immediately became sharper. Under Ruger's guidance, she quietly passed the poisonous Andariel body that had been sucked dry by her to Ruger's feet, and then she turned around and picked up the body of Belial that was thrown aside by Mephisto, and crawled to the ground from the other side of the wall. This time, she did not use the rocket booster. That thing had too obvious traces of Ruger. After using it, even if Mephisto was slow, he could guess that Ruger was playing dead. Although he was actually poking in the same place, he just didn't move, neither pretending to be dead nor dead. It was impossible for Sarah to wear a set of goddess armor and drag the shadow of Belial demon god, and climb up the wall with her bare hands like Tia Polo. How can a goddess be the same as a red dragon without wings? Her method is more goddess-like, that is, she shoots a few ice arrows at the wall, and when the ice arrows are half entered into the wall and have not melted, she uses them as stairs and steps up step by step. Not to mention, on the pure ice arrows, a graceful girl in purple-red holy clothes walks up step by step, and the goddess effect is really pulled to the top. However, although her way of walking is gorgeous, there are many prerequisites. She holds the phantom of Belial demon in one hand, and uses the magic crossbow on the holy clothes with the other hand to shoot ice arrows at the wall, while her feet have to keep moving, just stepping on the arrows that have just been fired. This set of actions is difficult to say, and it is even more difficult to do. If Sarah was not the supreme commander of Rogue, she has actually reached the peak of Amazon warriors, and at the same time, she has the power of the goddess of joy. It is also difficult to complete the set of actions without any mistakes. In the words of the game, her tolerance rate is too low. In engineering terms, the robustness of the set of movements is too poor. As Sarah walked higher and higher, it would be strange if Mephisto could not see her. Seeing her walking up the stairs so gorgeously like a model, how could Mephisto, who had no intact flesh on his body, tolerate it? Definitely not. Jealousy makes people ugly, not to mention that model workers are ugly enough. Seeing this guy who was originally as ugly as himself, Ruger, Andariel is much prettier than you guys. Once he betrayed the demon team and transformed into a god, he was so stylish and gorgeous, he was almost so angry that he exploded on the spot. At that moment, he didn't care about continuing to cast control spells on Tia Polo, and threw 2 flame hydras at the wall on Sarah's side. Hydra is often translated as a 9-headed snake. Flame hydra is to summon the shadow of this powerful flame monster in the fiery hell. Their snake heads will continuously release fireballs at the enemy. If you are too close to them, you may be entangled by their flame bodies and your body will be burned to ashes. However, most of these summoned things actually do not reach the level of having 9 heads. The 2 summoned by Mephisto are quite powerful, but only one has 6 heads and the other has 7 heads. It is more realistic to call them flame hydras. Once these 2 flame hydras appeared, the 13 heads added together were like 13 machine guns, forming a very tightly coordinated artillery formation. One group attacked Sarah, and the other group directly dealt with the wall where her ice crossbow arrows shot into. Sarah was in danger. Fortunately, although Ruger was pretending to be dead, not really, he was actually not idle at all. First, he contacted Tia and asked her to continue climbing to attract Mephisto's attention, and then asked Sarah to take Belial to run to the ground from the other side. At this time, he was not in a hurry to do what he wanted to do, but continued to use the laser signal array to illuminate Anya. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai-Chi-Ji. Chapter 452. Anya was one of the few onlookers still on the ground looking down. Google search reading. Others, such as Rog, were persuaded to return by Isandra and Irina, who had already discovered something was wrong when Mephisto appeared. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Think about it, before everyone had to deal with the poisonous Andariel, these Rogs were no longer able to intervene. Now that a giant-level demon like Mephisto has appeared, they can't stay. Isandra Raman is kind-hearted and a typical moderate educator. She is somewhat restrained in her speech. She just uses various innocuous reasons to persuade Roger to evacuate from the front line. Regardless of Irina's actual age of 1,500 plus years old, in fact, both the actual years and relatively simple experiences have shaped her character of being straightforward and straightforward. She directly said to the Rogs, "The battle below is already at the level of a demon. Even I am not qualified to intervene, so don't stay here and cause trouble." If we say that before, except for Rog's personal guards, few Rogs knew the switch. Hearing her say this, I'm afraid someone with a bad temper would stand up and start a fight with her. But they had all seen the 8-on-8 underground battle before, and they had seen how capable the switch was. That is an existence that can deal with a hellish succubus, witch Lisa, and a demon god, actually Belial's physical carrier, Capricorn, at the same time. She said that she was not qualified to intervene, but even Rog was not qualified to do so. Although the words were unpleasant, after experiencing so many things, Rog no longer felt arrogant and unwilling to listen to advice. In other words, anyone who is arrogant, but has high vision and low hand, has already perished in countless waves. So, they were persuaded and withdrew again. Fortunately, they were persuaded by Irina to leave in advance, otherwise it would be nothing more than seeing Sarah transforming into Andariel. Seeing Tia suddenly transforming into a giant red dragon, it would probably blow their minds. So now, apart from Irina and Isandra, only Anya and a few rock guards recognized by the two people over there are still on the ground. What? Li Min, where are the helicopters? They took the shepherds with them, and at this time they had almost flown over the forgotten tower in the dark wasteland. However, Li Ji and Maria are on their way here and should be there soon. Oh, by the way, there is also a second-generation ancient Nicalia hidden in the weasel pose. But seeing as she was already familiar with finding a Minesweeper game on the weasel-style computer and having fun playing it, she might not be planning to come out to help anytime soon. This is good, at least if Lugger wants to contact everyone on the ground, he will have fewer options. After thinking about it, Anya is the only one who is reliable. After all, this person was originally captured by Luge as a prisoner of war and was nominally Luge's granddaughter. She had been forced to study by Luge using methods called torture but actually making up lessons. Of course she had learned the writing in her hometown. Speaking of Anya, I have to say that when Lugger traveled around the world and did business with certain people, he always took Anya as his driver. He did the right thing. If Anya's 3 views hadn't been shattered by Lugger and then built up bit by bit, she would have gone crazy just seeing Taya turn into a big pineapple. It's okay now. Except for seeing Tia being intercepted by the opponent when she cast the frost spell, which made her secretly curse, her mood is still relatively stable. Well, stable. If there was anyone in the room who believed most that Ruger would be fine except Taya, then Anya would be ranked ahead of Sarah. As for where this trust comes from, it's probably the same as Tia's. It's mostly emotions. Of course, if you ask Anya herself, her answer will probably be, because of the grandfather paradox, I am still alive, so Lugger must still be alive. Then, Lugger would cover his face with a slap, pull Anya over, give her some extra lessons, and explain to her what the real paradox of her grandfather was. She had to go to the past of her timeline and kill Lugger before she was born, well, Lugger in this plane, to trigger that paradox. Because if she killed her grandfather, then she shouldn't exist. She no longer exists, so how can she go back in time and kill her grandfather? Grandpa was not killed, the Lugger survived, and then Anya would exist again. Then she's going to silly grandpa again. Such a cycle cannot achieve a logical closed loop at all, so it is a paradox. The one Anya thought was the version she imagined when she listened to Ruger's daily chats and stories. However, what she thinks is not unreasonable, but it cannot be named paradox. Her idea is that Lugger is her grandfather who came here from the past. This is the old popsicle saying originating from Makara. But what is different from the normal version is that Anya believes that Lugger at this time has not yet given birth to her mother with her grandmother. She believes that Lugger will return to the past at some point in the future and give birth to a daughter, her mother, completing the time loop. So she would think that as long as Luge died now, she would disappear too. He didn't disappear, so Lugger didn't die either. Well, her thoughts and logic make sense. But in fact, several premises are wrong. The reason why she misunderstood like this was mainly because she had heard Ruger say go home, return to the past, get married and so on several times. Of course, Ruger's words were actually meant for Tia, and had nothing to do with Anya. If Ruger really had a problem now, for example, he died, Anya would not be affected at all. In the final analysis, Ruger was not Anya's real grandfather on her timeline, but her grandfather's other self in another parallel universe. But then again, although Anya's ideas were full of mistakes, the root cause of them still fell on her trust in Ruger. This was not a bad thing. At least when Ruger used the laser signal array to type a line of words for her, she did not have any entanglement or surprise, but just smiled at the ground from a distance, then climbed up from the edge of the cave and went to find Irina and Isandra to pull them over. Then, 3 magic professionals, the witch, the magic stone caster Iron Man, and the witch, shot a string of ice arrows at the wall together. So, Sarah, who was almost left with nowhere to go by the 2 fire hydras, suddenly saw countless stairs in front of her. Under the output of 4 ice spells, Sarah still maintained her elegance and ran quickly to the ground. After going up, the Belial in Sarah's hand immediately attracted 2 magic geeks, similar to martial arts geeks, to come over and study. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 453. And Anya, who was still staring at the ground, also received praise from her grandfather. Well done, Anya. He he he. The silly child smiled at the ground with satisfaction. On the other side, Mephisto was also quite surprised to see that Sarah could escape so quickly. But he didn't have time to care about that at this time. When Sarah jumped onto the ground, Tiapolo, who had been acting like he would be knocked down at any time, also began to climb up to the ground at an accelerated speed. The model worker didn't understand at this time that Tia's previous pretense was simply to buy time for Sarah. This kind of trick has almost no skills to speak of, but the simpler things are, the better the actual effect is often. But for Mephisto, being calculated by such a simple trick is really unbearable. In just a moment, he didn't care about any temptations or self-preservation, and immediately moved towards Tia, while increasing the output of magic. His energy was to force Tia to stay, so as to restore his reputation that was damaged by the trick. Although, no one cares about this thing except himself. What will happen if a hell demon who specializes in long-range magic attacks is determined to use full firepower? In Sarah's words, it's a good thing that I run fast. In Tia's words, it's a good thing that I'm thick-skinned now. In Ruger's words, wow, it turns out that the fear of insufficient firepower is a common problem in the multiverse. Thunderstorm is almost the ceiling of the lethality of lightning spells. Using this as a firepower launch platform is the basis, and further improvement is to improve the firepower launched by this platform. The Thunderstorm lightning spear used by Mephisto before is one of this improved version. However, in order to force Tia to stay, he began to use another improved version. Thunderstorm Thunder Bomb. In the most basic form of lightning spells, the firepower exists in the form of arc, lightning, electric spear, electric ball, etc. These firepower existences are probably equivalent to the ammunition in gunpowder weapons. Electric arc is equivalent to the lead bullet used in the most rudimentary air gun, which can only shoot birds. The igniter of the gas stove used at home, and the electric ignition device in the $1 lighter, emit this kind of bullet. It can hurt people, but it is difficult to injure, and even more difficult to hurt. Electric light is based on the electric arc, and the total amount of energy is increased, similar to the electric light emitted when AC or even high voltage wires leak. At this level, it has the ability to hurt people or even kill people. However, its upper limit is high enough, and the lower limit is still low enough. In fact, if used, this level of lightning magic is still mainly used to cause electric shock paralysis to the target, which is a kind of auxiliary killing magic with a biased control system. And the electric spear, that is, the quantitative change leads to qualitative change, which is essentially different. The most common form of the electric spear is the lightning thunder in the sky, like the electric spear thrown by the gods to the ground. Under normal circumstances, ordinary people who are hit by this thing will be directly turned into charcoal with a probability of more than 99%. There are lucky people who survive, but not many. The biggest advantage of lightning magic is that its upper limit of damage is very high, much higher than that of fire or ice. For example, for level 3 magic, the upper limit of fire damage is 100 points, ice damage is 80 points, and lightning damage can even be as high as 300 points. But the biggest disadvantage of lightning is that its lower limit of damage is also very low. For the same example, if the lower limit of fire damage is 50, the damage range is 50-100, then ice damage is about 60. Obviously, ice damage is the type that has low average damage, but the difference between the upper and lower limits is not large, and it performs stably. For lightning, the lower limit is 1, always 1, and always. The upper and lower limits of level 1 magic are 1-100, level 2 1-200, level 3 1-300, and so on. In essence, from arc to electric light to electric spear, it is actually the difference in current intensity, current density flux. It is a difference in quantity. However, there is a special existence in the lightning system, lightning ball. Lightning ball, spherical lightning, or thunder bomb. This is the famous, legendary, ball lightning. The principle of ball lightning was still in the stage of controversy in Ruger's time. Generally speaking, there are several most reliable guesses. The first one is that it is a vortex of high-temperature plasma. The reason why it is so powerful is that it is like the plasma weapons in science fiction novels, that is, ion plasma and plasma weapons. It relies on the high temperature and high energy substances in the plasma state to produce super strong killing to the target. Another theory is that it is the atmospheric discharge that electrolyzes water into a mixed gas of hydrogen and oxygen. Its killing effect is equivalent to the explosion of a hydrogen bomb. Well, hydrogen bomb, not hydrogen bomb. In addition, there are many other theoretical explanations, some of which are reinterpreted from scratch, and some are revised on the basis of one or two theories. The cause of the ball lightning in the natural field in Ruger's world is likely to be based on those revised theories based on one or two theories, such as the combined effect of plasma and microwave radiation, etc. In the field of magic, the principle of this lightning ball and thunder bomb, in Ruger's opinion, is more like a mixture of the first and second explanations. The lightning ball is a high-temperature plasma, and also contains hydrogen and oxygen gas. Of course, magic power is also involved. So when it explodes, there will be multiple killing methods such as high-temperature burning and explosion shock waves. Of course, there is still the most original killing of the lightning system, such as electric shock. The reason why the lightning ball is emphasized is that this special form of lightning firepower, that is, quasi-ammunition, because the killing principle is not only based on electric shock, so its lower limit of killing is no longer 1. Lightning ball thunder bomb magic, at least must be classified as level 5 magic. In other words, casters who do not reach the level of level 5 magicians cannot release this high damage magic at all. According to the previous analogy, assuming that the upper and lower limits of the killing of ordinary level 5 lightning magic are 1-500, the upper and lower limits of the killing of thunder bomb magic are 400-1000. That's right, the upper and lower limits of this thing are the highest among all elemental magics of the same level. Even the highest among all attack magics of the same level. And now, the thunder bomb released by Mephisto is not a single shot, but a continuous large-scale and large-scale super-multiple release using the intermediate carrier of Thunder Cloud Storm. The thunder bombs that came out of the thunderstorm and rushed towards Tiapolo were probably 3 or 4 per second, and could continue to bombard for dozens of seconds. This magic had the firepower coverage of Ruger's artillery battalion. It was simply a magical medicine from another world that cured the fear of insufficient firepower. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai Chi Ji. Chapter 454. It should be added that in Ruger's team, only a few people, such as Isandra, a mentor-level master wizard who is proficient in 3-element magic, have the ability to release this kind of magic. And even if she is as strong as Isandra, if she wants to release a thunder bomb, she must rely on a level 4 magic gem that is at least flawless, that is, above level 3 ordinary level and below level 5 perfect level. Moreover, a level 4 lightning yellow gem can only fire one thunder bomb. It is conceivable how amazing the magic consumption of this kind of magic is. In this way, the magic consumed by Mephisto's thundercloud storm lightning ball is probably equivalent to the sum of the magic stored in all the Nephilim bodies present. It is even higher. Just from this magic, it can be seen that most of the magic mastered by the wizards in the world of Sanctuary comes from the inheritance of Mephisto's infiltration of Nephilim. It is really a case of wind coming from a hole, and there must be a reason for everything. The consumption of magic power is amazing, and its own lethality is the best among all magics of the same level. The lethality of a thunder bomb can be seen. Not to mention that the ordinary human guards at the lowest level of the Lugger team will be directly vaporized. I am afraid that even the quasi-Lugger elites such as MP5 Sister will be killed by a single shot. If hit head-on by this magic, perhaps only the Iron Man can be injured but not killed. Well, maybe we need to add a Minerva. The barbarian female warrior has thick skin and flesh, and she can probably withstand another shot. She was only, well, seriously injured and dying. Isandra on the ground over there, even if she is an elemental master wizard several times stronger than a mentor, and she is also wearing Aquarius Iron Man armor, will most likely lose her combat effectiveness instantly after being hit by this thing. So when she found that the thunderstorm was actually a thunder bomb, Isandra on the ground immediately pulled Anya, who was still leaning on the edge of the ground to check the battle situation below, and ran back. Being accidentally injured is not as easy as the previous lightning spear. Anya doesn't even have the Iron Man armor, she will definitely be killed instantly. Even Sarah, who ran up, even with the protection of the goddess of joy, retreated from the ground, fearing that she would be accidentally injured. It is conceivable how much pressure this thing's killing ability puts on everyone. Similarly, how painful it is for Tia below who was hit directly by this thing. Yes, it hurts. Not death, not even injury, but pain. There is no way, Tia below is a genuine hell demon after all. Moreover, he is good at close combat. If we use the occupation classification of MOBA multiplayer online tactical competitive games such as LOL, Storm or Pesticide, Diablo is a tank. Mephisto is a mid-lane mage, a mage-type output. Mephisto's long-range burst output is high, but no matter how high it is impossible to kill a tank instantly. Everyone is not well developed, and they have been reckless. Now it is the case that the pot calling the kettle black, the crow laughs at the coal ball, and they are not in their prime, so they think there will be a one-sided situation. After being hit by several thunder bombs in succession, Tia Polo's super resistance and super thick blood bar worked, so that she would not be in decisive danger in a short time. However, in Tia's words, it hurt so much. At the same time as shouting this, Tia looked back at Mephisto's eyes, which were so red that they almost assimilated with her dragon scales. Now, she was also rotten and continued to cling to the wall with her claws. The 4 claws were like spring plates compressed and charged. She kicked the wall hard, and a huge wingless red dragon bounced off the wall like a cannonball and rushed straight to Mephisto underground. Mephisto saw that she neither dodged nor resisted, but attacked him directly. For a moment, he was happy and surprised. What made him happy was that he found that Diablo was still irritable, and he would take the bait easily. Ruger, just casually, casting a magic equivalent to the volley firepower of the division's artillery battalion, is that casual? With such obvious character weaknesses, he was easily controlled by himself. What surprised him was that Mephisto was good at long-range combat but not close combat, and they were a perfect match when they worked together, but if they fell out, he might not be able to beat that guy. But it was okay, after all, he still had a full set of new galaxy magic that he could use anytime and anywhere without spending any money. If it was still not enough, he could use lightning nova magic and continue to shoot thunder bombs. Spherical lightning nova. Lightning nova bomb. With himself as the center of the ball, he fired no less than 100 thunder bombs in the 360-degree spherical space around him. It was both an attack and defense integrated nova magic and a lightning ball with super single target attack. With Mephisto's control over magic, he could definitely perform it. So, in the second millisecond when he saw Tia rushing towards him, Luodu was ready to go and prepared this lightning nova bomb for her. However, 5 milliseconds, 10 milliseconds, 100 milliseconds, and even a whole second passed, but Tia Polo still didn't rush to him. What's going on? Luodu looked carefully and found that the wingless red dragon rushing towards him shook slightly in the air, and a series of ripples flashed. That was clearly a fake clone created by some kind of shadow. That's right, that's the assassin skill, shadow training, shadow warrior. It was a life-size figure made by Tia using her telekinesis ability to control the magic in the environment. Ahem. It's a clone, a shadow clone. Moreover, unlike the invisible shadow clones, the main body of the shadow warrior is the telekinetic ability released, and the body is the magic energy gathered. So this thing actually has the ability to release some simple skills. And the skill performed by Tia's shadow clone is a weakened version of Flying Dragon in the Sky. Flying Dragon in the Sky, the assassin can move at a speed that the human eye cannot detect in an instant, rush towards the opponent and perform a devastating kick. Of course, in fact, it is not as awesome as the skill description. The weakened version should be able to move at a relatively fast speed relative to ordinary people in a short period of time, rush towards the opponent and perform a threatening kick. For the weakened version, basically every degree description has been lowered by at least 2 levels. But it should be said that rushing from the wall 3 stories high underground to Mephisto at an angle to the center of the underground space, the straight line distance is dozens of meters, and it has not arrived after 1 second, which is not slow. After all, if an average person can run 100 meters in 10 seconds, it is very fast, which means that if you can run 10 meters per second, it is very impressive. This shadow warrior can fly 40 to 50 meters in 1 second, which is extremely fast for an average person. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 455. In short, when he found that the person rushing towards him was a shadow warrior, Mephisto's heart was alarmed, and he said to himself that it was not good, and immediately released the lightning ball nova that was ready to go. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. At the same time, he immediately accumulated the next magic. In his opinion, Tia used the shadow warrior to attract his attention, and most likely she had quietly run behind him from another angle. After all, assassin shadow training also includes magic shadow cloaks, acceleration and other means. Tia released the shadow warrior to attract Mephisto's attention, and at the same time put on the magic shadow cloak to reduce her presence, entering stealth or even invisibility. Then she applied acceleration to herself and sneaked over from the other side. Well, it's very smooth and feasible. However, Luodu's second lightning ball nova had already been fired, and the third one was brewing. At the same time, the first lightning ball had already defeated the shadow warrior, but there was still no trace of Tiapolo around him. Could it be? She dodged it. Mephisto's heart skipped a beat. Yes, this slender version of Tiapolo is swift and agile, much stronger than the original Diapolo. With her previous agility, she might be able to shuttle through the gaps between those lightning balls. No. Let's switch to the airtight original lightning nova. Thinking so in his heart, Mephisto's hands and tentacles all retracted, and after taking back the brewing lightning magic, he condensed it into an electric light ring that radiated electric spear light arcs again, and raised his hand to send it out again. Sizzle! A fine spherical net composed of electric light shot out, and even the slightly larger dust in the air around it was electrified into black. However, there was still no sign of Tiapolo. What's going on? Mephisto finally realized something was wrong. What if the guy on the other side didn't attack him, but just faked a move and ran away? Thinking of this, he looked up at the ground. As a result, he saw Tiapolo grinning at him in the body of a red dragon. Mephisto looked for a long time before he realized that she didn't seem to be deliberately using the dragon's roar to scare him, but making faces at him. Mephisto's face was black, thinking to himself, "Little girl, can you be a little self-aware? A red dragon like a hell dragon, your face would scare ghosts to death, how can you make faces?" He didn't know that he thought Tiapolo's dragon face was scary, but some people thought it was particularly pleasing to the eye. For example, assigning a round of tasks to others, but secretly hiding underground to tinker with something or someone. Over there, Tia turned around and made faces, seemingly provoking Mephisto, but if you look carefully at the position, you can find that she was also making faces at Ruger underground. At this time, Mephisto was almost at the 11 o'clock position horizontally of Tia. And Ruger was just at the 12 o'clock position, that is, directly in front of her. They were actually a couple flirting. Ruger, on the other hand, took a long time to control himself from laughing out loud, and continued to pretend to be dead to reduce his presence. Over there, Mephisto hesitated for a long time whether to go back or continue to chase. To be honest, if it weren't for Diablo, he would definitely rush up and at least deal with Sarah's new god of pleasure. One of the 7 demon kings actually used such a weird method to transform into a good god of a neutral faction. Although she did not join the Supreme Heaven directly, and the Supreme Heaven would not stop targeting her just because she turned into a god, Mephisto still firmly believed that this trend must not be allowed to continue. That Andariel is simply the second Lilith. This is simply rubbing salt into the old father's wound. In order to deal with the problem of the wild couple, how much trouble has the model worker spent for thousands of years? Now there is another one, and it is not enough to physically withdraw from the sidelines, but he actually plays the trick of turning the devil into a god. It is absolutely unacceptable. However, if there is only the goddess of joy, with Mephisto's ability, he can completely roll her into a ball and flatten her, and manipulate her at will. But with the addition of Diablo, this matter is troublesome. In terms of absolute strength, he is sure that the Red Dragon Man is not his opponent, but the two sides have a problem of professional restraint. If it were the original Diablo, he would have thick skin and flesh but slow skills, and only had a powerful fire magic, but he was restrained by his own magic godlike existence. That is true that although the meat is hard to chew, as long as you give yourself enough time or enough opportunities, the final victory will undoubtedly be yourself. But now, after Tiapolo became more sensitive, not only is his skin and flesh not significantly reduced compared to before, but his skills have been greatly improved. It is simply that he has directly changed from a meat shield and mage to a full-time meat shield and assassin. Mage versus mage, whoever has a higher mage level is stronger. But assassin versus mage, that is, mage killer versus mage, who restrains who, isn't this obvious enough? When Mephisto thought of this, he even suspected that Diablo chose to possess an assassin mage killer. Was he planning to plot against him from the beginning? That guy, don't look at his big and thick body, he is more vicious than me when it comes to scheming against his own people. He looks honest, but he is treacherous. Is this the legendary great wisdom? There seems to be a law in this world. It is easy to think of others as you are like yourself. A thief looks like a thief to everyone. A selfish person thinks there should be no selfless people in the world. Those with cunning minds always think that others are shrewd and will scheme against them at any time. But people, or intelligent life, always know how to learn and make progress. Especially for those beings with extremely long lifespans and enough experiences. No matter what their original intentions are, at least in the long years, they can still learn to break through this instinctive thinking barrier. Mephisto is such a being. Although he doubted Diabolos' original intention for a while, he quickly determined that his transformation into Diabolo should not be aimed at himself alone. In fact, it was not aimed at anyone, but just a coincidence, just a coincidence. What he didn't know was that if Ruger knew his thoughts, he would definitely laugh secretly. Because in another timeline, Diablo, who looked loyal but was actually treacherous, really became the winner among the 7 devils of hell. The key to Diablo's victory was Leah, Tia's mother. From this point of view, Mephisto's suspicion of Diablo was not just his own suspicion. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 456. Mephisto's suspicion of Diablo was not just his own suspicion. Google search reading. After all, he was a demon god, and Diablo was also a demon god. It was normal and correct for a demon god to look at another demon god as if he was looking at himself. It was a pity that Mephisto didn't know these things. Among all the people present, only Lugger knew a little bit. So, Lao Mo concluded that it was an accident that Diabolo became like this, and it was not aimed at him. So, between retreating and chasing, he chose the latter. An existence that could release thundercloud storm thunder bombs, which was comparable to forbidden spells, could not possibly not know another useful spell in the lightning system, teleportation. So, under the gaze of Diabolo's red dragon ghost face, Mephisto gathered the evil spirits under him and engulfed himself. With a flash of lightning, the entire half-skeleton dragon-like demon god body was teleported to the ground, right behind Diabolo. But that guy clearly ran behind Tia, but he still cursed in his heart that he was fooled. As a master of spellcasting, he is much more sensitive to the concentration of magic in the environment than other demons. As soon as he came up, he found that the concentration of magic on the ground was too low. Such a low concentration of magic directly affected the second half of his teleportation magic. Originally, his teleportation magic had a hidden feature, that is, he could teleport back to the original position at any time if he saw something wrong. However, because the magic on the ground was too thin, he lost contact with the magic beacon at the original position as soon as he teleported back. If he wanted to go back, he could only gather magic again and cast another spell. However, with the concentration of magic on the ground, it would take a lot of effort for him to teleport again. What he didn't know was that the magic on this piece of ground was much denser than before or the surroundings. That was the magic that escaped from the underground tomb and had not yet spread evenly to other places. Perhaps because of this, he didn't notice the problem on the ground when he was deep underground. From this point, it can also be seen that he must have noticed the hatred seed of Paladin Austin not long ago. Otherwise, he should have learned from the body provider how thin the magic power in this world is. But even so, he was not in a hurry to escape. Because he found that the enemy on the opposite side was even more surprised than himself when he saw him appear. Mephisto's feeling was right. Not to mention Tia, even Sarah was shocked to find that he actually used teleportation magic to run directly to the ground. They are both big consumers of magic power, one demon god and one neutral god. To maintain a certain level of combat power, there is a great demand for the amount of magic power. Just like the larger and more powerful aircraft carrier fleet, the higher the requirement for logistical supplies. After returning to the ground, Sarah had completely retracted the external shadow of the goddess of joy. She even retracted some of the holy clothes accessories on the Iron Man armor that represented the goddess's blessing power, in order to reduce the consumption of magic power. The same is true for Tia. While making faces at Mephisto and Ruger, she had already consciously reduced the size of her red dragon body. Soon, she shrunk to the same level as the poisonous Andariel before, that is, about 5 meters high. In this way, she would not cause her own magic to dissipate due to the thin magic environment on the ground. To be honest, it was precisely because they felt uncomfortable in the thin magic environment that Tia and Sarah did not expect Mephisto to really catch up. As a result, Mephisto, who suddenly ran up, seized the opportunity and launched an attack on Tia, who was alone in front, before Sarah came back to her senses to support. It is really hard to say whether the decline in strength caused by the thin magic has a greater impact on melee professions such as tank warriors or on ranged professions such as mages. Under normal circumstances, as time goes by, the longer the change, the more stable the mutation caused, and the impact on all types tends to be the same. But in a short period of time, it really depends on the specific situation. At present, because Mephisto had just teleported from underground, although it was discovered that his huge demon body had been emitting magic energy due to the thin magic power around him, at this moment, his strength was still sufficient. Instant magic is different from reading magic. Because there is no process of condensing the surrounding magic power, its killing effect basically depends only on the magic power in the caster's body and the magic power he can instantly call from the surroundings. In short, Mephisto shot a lightning spear at Tia, and its power did not drop significantly due to the thin magic power in the environment. But on the other hand, Tia had been up for a long time, and even her system had shrunk. Obviously, her defense power had dropped compared to that underground. So even if she was only attacked by a lightning spear, she was still in pain for a while. Fortunately, as Sarah reacted and joined the battle, the power comparison between the two sides temporarily tended to be balanced. After Mephisto also shrunk his body size, the absolute strength of the two sides seemed to fall into a delicate balance. It seemed that this strange duel between the demons would last for a long time. In fact, this situation was more or less due to the tasks that Luger had assigned to the two women. All the instructions he passed on to everyone were clearly written on his face: "Help me hold him back." In this case, even if Tia and Sarah are stronger than Mephisto after joining forces, the final situation on the battlefield will only be a draw. However, how much of this situation is deliberately reserved and how much is helpless, I am afraid that the parties themselves cannot tell clearly. Ruger did not know all this. He finally waited for Mephisto to leave, and immediately began his little tricks. First, he threw Sarah to the poisonous Andariel body next to him and tried to put it into the logistics space. As a result, it was stopped by the system without any surprise. Error: there is a high-energy space-time beacon on the target item, and space folding and compression cannot be performed again. Although the attempt failed, Ruger still felt that he had gained a lot. Because in the past, if you do this kind of thing, it won't work, and the system will not give any explanation. And the error prompt given now, which is not very long, contains a lot of information. The second half of the sentence basically explained to Ruger the essence of the logistics space, which is a kind of space folding and compression technology. This is one of the three possibilities of the principle of portable space that Ruger once guessed. The other two are space teleportation and material virtualization. In the deduction of Ruger's conjecture, the three technologies have their own advantages and disadvantages. Now that we can confirm that our space is space folding, we can provide some targeted guidance for its future use. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 457. For example, you don't have to worry about being blocked by someone proficient in space magic and unable to use the logistics space. But at the same time, Don't think about using the logistics space as a relay springboard to play space teleportation between two terminals. The folded and compressed logistics space can only exist near Ruger's sea of consciousness and is deeply bound to the system. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. The first half of this hint revealed to Ruger a secret that he had expected and was also the reason why he tried so hard to lead Mephisto away. There are other secrets in Andariel's body. There is also the secret of the remaining fragments of the World Stone. Both Max and Sarah said that if you want to leave this world, you must defeat Andariel and take Andariel's body to her throne to perform a special ceremony. Otherwise, even if Max originally entered here from the outside world, he would not be able to leave. At the same time, Sarah is Andariel, and she can't leave this place. Theoretically, she can't leave. She can't defeat herself. Based on the above information, combined with the system's error prompts, Ruger roughly made his own judgment. He didn't waste any more time, picked up the poisonous Andariel by the waist, and immediately ran towards her throne. According to the method Sarah told him in advance, put Andariel's body in place, found the mechanisms around the throne, and acted one by one according to the ritual requirements. Ruger heard a ding-dong sound, and the system popped up a prompt message again. The high-energy space-time beacon is detected to be activated and can be absorbed and integrated by the system. Do you want to absorb it? Absorb. Ruger didn't hesitate at all and immediately issued the order to absorb. He had guessed long ago that once he met all the prerequisites for leaving this area and came here to receive his permission to leave, it would definitely trigger the corresponding action of the system. He just didn't expect that the system's action was so thorough that it was directly integrated with the so-called leave permission. Well, of course he thought about it. After all, this is the best way for him to predict the results. He just didn't dare to be sure that such a good thing could actually happen. The essence of the so-called leave authority is a certain program, or prohibition, seal, etc. left by the fragment of the World Stone that brought Andariel here. According to what the system once said, the World Stone itself is a special system, so it is not difficult to understand that the things left by the World Stone fragment can be used by Ruger's system. The reason why Ruger did not fully confirm this matter is mainly because he heard another message from the second generation of the ancient Nigalia that the World Stone was resurrected. In other words, the World Stone has its own will. Although because of the will, the most generous thing he did was to tear himself into pieces. But, it is also because of this reason that Ruger did not want to and was unwilling to spend the effort to guess what it wanted to do. So, he did not expect the options that were better than a certain degree in the prediction results. But in the end, he actually got one of the best results. This is the truth of his so-called unexpected. Now that the system and that thing have begun to merge, he is temporarily free. Then the first thing he needs to deal with is his tattered Iron Man armor. It just so happens that the system and that thing are fused, and the logistics space can still be opened. He took off his armor and threw it into the biological research laboratory, using the energy and material conversion ability of two radom trees to repair it. However, when he took off the armor, he found that it was covered with some special tissues. That was clearly the poisonous needle tentacles on Andariel's body. What's going on? Ruger thought while trying to separate the two. However, the tissues of the two were unexpectedly connected together like welding. If they were forcibly disassembled, at least one side would be damaged. At the same time, he also confirmed that the place where the two touched was near the elbow of his Iron Man armor. There was the place that was the heaviest when he hugged Andariel's body before. Ruger thought, could it be that because they used too much force, they were stuck together like 502 super glue? It didn't look like that. If you have to say, it's more like the two materials regarded each other as part of themselves and fused together. Why is this happening? Ruger thought. But soon, the second question became, can this phenomenon be used? Then, he came out of the logistics space and turned to look at Andariel's body on the throne. He tried to move a part of the iron armor over and observe closely. Sure enough, the two soon fused together again. But this time, Ruger also found a problem, that is, the body of the poisonous Andariel is now only the size of an ordinary person, with not much flesh and blood. After growing with the iron armor, her own structure has changed strangely. How about adding some raw materials to her? Although it was a question, Ruger always had endless curiosity about such strange things. After trying the materials in his hand, he suddenly discovered that injecting magic gems and material energy armor into Andariel's body at the same time would gradually increase her size. At the same time, the form also changed from an ordinary human state to Andariel's original form of the Demon King of Pain. So that's it, it turns out that Andariel's body will instinctively recover. Does this mean that even now, here, this world, still needs an Andariel to continue to be the key? The key that can be left after being defeated? This conjecture made Ruger feel somewhat uncomfortable. Imagine that this area was originally a fragment of the sanctuary world. Under the control of the world's stone fragment, it became a small space isolated from other areas. At the same time, Andariel, the Queen of Pain brought by the world's stone fragment, was regarded as the core and key here, or simply, the boss of this dungeon. Defeating Andariel can open this dungeon and leave. Now, use the system to assimilate and integrate this permission to leave. After the fusion, will the boss at the end of the level automatically become Luger himself? Let alone the fact that a team of heroes will come to fight him to get the permission to leave in a few years, the fact that he will be left here and not allowed to leave is enough to give him a headache. Thinking of this, Luger even wanted to stop the system from merging with that permission. But the system just replied to him lightly, special fusion cannot be interrupted. However, it seemed that Luger's concerns were noticed, and the system's fusion speed increased rapidly. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 458. Sensing Ruger's concerns, the system fusion speed increased rapidly. As a result, Ruger was temporarily unable to open the logistics space. As a result, Andariel's body, which was addicted to eating magic stones and energy material armor, almost turned around and ate Ruger because of lack of food. Fortunately, Ruger was quick-witted and hid as far away as possible when he found something wrong. After all, this is the 4th floor of the underground tomb. Not only is there a lot of magic in the air around, but even the bricks and stones, tables, and chairs around are rich in magic. So, the greedy Andariel's body actually began to devour everything around, including Andariel's stone throne and the altars used for rituals around. Seeing that Andariel was getting taller and the surrounding items were being eaten less and less by her, Ruger had retreated to the corner of the entire throne hall. If he went any further, he would have to leave this space and be exposed in the center of the underground tomb. At that time, Mephisto would be able to find him if he looked down. And now, Ruger could not take out the tanks and armored vehicles in the space, and he had lost his own armor. Basically, if he was touched by any magic of Mephisto, he would be killed instantly. The situation was extremely critical. It was impossible. There were many reasons. For example, Ruger was at least a full-level Nephilim based on his physical attributes. In addition, he had a set of telekinesis that was good at fine control, and he learned from Isandra how to cast magic with magic gems. It was not a problem for him to disguise himself as a witch or a wizard for a short time. Let's take a step back and just talk about defense. His magic defense was quite impressive under these conditions. In short, even if he was not as good as Shalatia, he was definitely stronger than Isandra or Irina. And that was when both Ironmans were wearing armor. In short, although he had no tanks or armor, he could not be killed instantly. Whatever happens, he can still withstand, a lightning spear. He will not be killed instantly by Mephisto. Not really, not really. On the other hand, Andariel's body has actually recovered almost completely. It is taller than the more than 5 meters when it was on the ground at the beginning. If she stands up straight, it is probably less than 20 meters. Although her absorption of the surrounding magic and materials has not completely stopped, the speed has dropped a lot, and her body has not continued to grow. So in the short term, Ruger does not have to worry about being eaten by this thing. However, the most important reason why Ruger's situation is not critical at all is that the fusion of the system has ended. With a ding-dong sound, the system panel in Ruger's mind flashed again. At the same time, a string of relevant information popped up in the information list section. And the logistics space, after the bunker facilities, biological laboratories, and other modules, has an additional area of not too small. This area is roughly divided into 2 parts. One space is unknown, the door is closed, and the sign at the door reads "Under Repair." The other space was very small, not much bigger than the parking lot in the bunker where Ruger had originally been. But there was only one thing in the space, an item, or rather, a building. It was an inner gate in the style of a fortress. Ruger had actually seen this gate before. It was the gate on the east side of the East Gate Fortress, leading to the Tamor Mountains. It was obvious where this gate led to after it was opened. This was the gate to the bottom of the level to leave this area. However, similar to the space next door, this gate was also tightly closed. But the difference was that the sign next to this door read "Conditions not met, temporarily unavailable for the time being." After studying the 2 new areas in the space and the system's instructions for a while, Ruger finally came to a conclusion. That is, if he didn't drive away the Mephisto outside, he wouldn't be able to open either of his 2 gates. One of the conditions for opening the East Gate Fortress portal was that another space was functioning normally. However, in the "Under Repair" description of another space, it is marked that because of the existence of Mephisto, the repair completion time is, that is, infinite. Anyway, you just force me to fight with that demon god. Ha, routine, this is all routine. Ruger curled his lips, but did not continue to protest to the system. He also knew that it was a waste of effort. After returning from TSC of consciousness, the system only talked a little more for a while, and then became silent again. It also ignored all kinds of questions from me. However, Ruger not only did not feel disgusted with this, but secretly breathed a sigh of relief. After all, if Mephisto and his hatred seeds are used to compare the system maker and the system, it will be easy to draw a conclusion. The system is silent because there is only a program in its core that is not very smart. When the system is eloquent, it may be that the system maker has separated a trace of divine thoughts to take care of this side. Although this was a subjective hypothesis that Luger came up with based on the relationship between Mephisto and Paladin Captain Austin, it is not hard to say that it is completely unreasonable. Moreover, it is precisely because it is Luger's own idea that he is more easily influenced by it. So he was relieved when the system was silent. Perhaps countless years later, facts will prove that his idea is wrong, but that will not have any impact on his mood swings today. Ruger did not protest to the system. In addition to knowing that the system has become silent again, more importantly, he has already had a plan for how to drive Mephisto away. Others cannot easily intervene in the fight against Mephisto, the demon god. Only the existence of the level of the Hell Demon King and the ancient Nephilim can participate in the battle. Ruger himself, as a full-level ordinary Nephilim and a quasi-ancient Nephilim, is just on the edge of being able to play, but can only be cannon fodder. He can probably take a move from Mephisto, but he has almost no ability to move after a move. But that is under the premise that he has no other weapons and relies on the ordinary Nephilim to fight. If he has a repaired Iron Man armor, his actual strength can rise to the level of the second-generation ancient Nephilim like Little Rogalia. He can participate in the battle and make certain contributions, but he still cannot influence the situation. However, now, he has one more thing in his hand. With the help of this thing, he should be able to obtain combat power at least equal to that of the Demon King of Hell. This is the complete form of Andariel's body. That's right, it is the body of the Queen of Pain, which is 18 or 19 meters tall and lies in Andariel's court on the 4th floor of the underground tomb. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai-chi-ji. Chapter 459. In the Andariel King's Court on the 4th floor of the underground tomb, the body of the Queen of Pain, which is 18 or 19 meters tall, lies. Originally, after continuously absorbing magic power and materials, the body of the Queen of Pain seemed to be giving birth to a new, third-generation Andariel consciousness. But as the system fusion was completed, the ignorant consciousness seemed to have stopped developing after floating on the body for a while. Although Ruger turned to the mechanical direction, after contacting the ghost, especially after harvesting 2 ghost stratum trees and placing them in the logistics space biological laboratory, he gradually entered the stage of a novice in the field of biochemical technology. It is impossible to let him lead the direction of research and development, but it is not difficult for him to make something according to the book. So, with his current level of almost completely mastering the ghost biochemical transformation technology line and partially mastering the Radom tree biochemical technology line, plus the 18 or 19 meter tall Queen of Pain body in front of him, what can he do? What? Others may not know, but the modelers, well, those who know. RX-78NT-1, codename Alex or something. NT, right? Change to NFT. Nephilim. Codename Alex, right? Change to Andariel. So there is, BH-7 NFT-1, Andariel. Burning Hell, -7, 7 demons, NFT, Nephilim, -1, Unit 1, Andariel. Total height 5 meters, total weight 57 tons. Ahem, I can't make it up anymore. In fact, Luger just saw that Andariel's body was more than 18 meters tall. As a senior modeler and a UC-based modeler, he naturally thought of another 18-meter giant humanoid. But, the difference between the two is actually quite large. In comparison, if the Demon King's body is used to make a humanoid machine, then it would be the Sky Eagle warrior next door. But when Ruger walked to Andariel's body and tried to use the various equipment in the logistics space to check her, he suddenly found that his bad words really came true. Nothing else, when Andariel's body grew before, it absorbed a lot of strange things around it. Other things that should be digested were digested, absorbed, and those that should be converted into physical substances were also converted. There are only 2 things that she hid in her most core position like a treasure. Chest cavity. Originally, this is nothing, after all, the body structure of monsters is similar to that of humans, so it is natural to hide the most core things in the chest cavity. Humans put their internal organs there, and monsters are similar. After the internal organs of high-level monsters are virtualized and energized, they store magic cores, that is, their own magic gems and other things in the chest cavity. Previously, 2 items of magic energy or other energy with extremely high concentrations were absorbed by Andariel's body. She was either reluctant to completely transform them or did not have the ability to digest them immediately. So, she stored these 2 items in her chest. It was reasonable, very logical, and in line with monster biology. But the problem was that one of these 2 items was Luger's iron armor that had not been repaired yet. The other was Andariel's throne of the Demon King of Pain, which had the most abundant magic power in the 4th floor of the entire underground tomb, and there might even be hundreds of perfect gems inside. These 2 items were not small in size. Andariel subconsciously stored them in the chest. In order to maximize the use of space, it naturally became a humanoid armor sitting on the throne, lying diagonally in the chest. What does this look like? Isn't this a ready-made cockpit? Of course, even if Andariel instinctively dug a huge pit for himself and stepped half a foot into Lugger's earthen stove. However, this is still a long way from being able to be used directly by Ruger. However, with the addition of the biochemical transformation technology of Gaime. You know, before Andariel's body, a third-generation Andariel consciousness was generated. It's just that when it developed to about the level of a human child of 2 or 3 years old, because the system fusion was completed, the growth and evolution of consciousness stopped. However, this level of consciousness is just right for Gaime's biochemical transformation. This consciousness has become the natural main control computer of this body. In addition, Ruger's own consciousness is tough enough. He has been to Tia's Sea of Consciousness before, and he is proficient in telekinesis. So he doesn't even need to install the operating mechanism for Andariel's body. As long as the person enters, the consciousness is synchronized with the third-generation Andariel child consciousness, and he can control the body of the Queen of Pain like controlling his own body. The more he talks about it, the more it looks like the 3-no girl protagonist machine next to the plastic guy. Speaking of which, before Diablo 3 appeared and completely took over several pages of the background setting of Diablo 2, it seemed that Andariel had an ultimate form in the Diablo 2 line, which was Lilith. At that time, the setting was that Andariel was Lilith's daughter, so when the Nephilim bullied her daughter too much, Lilith, as a mother, would come back to teach them a lesson. Of course, in the end, she was inevitably turned into equipment for the players. But these plots were later abandoned forever for the revised plot of Diablo 3. If Ruger hadn't hidden the entire set of games in the main control computer, he really wouldn't have noticed this. Could it be that the same or similar settings in the dark will be easy to reproduce? Well, to put it bluntly, it is just a forced connection. In short, Ruger made himself a huge humanoid weapon Andariel. So far, he has the capital to go to the battlefield and fight Mephisto head-on. However, he did not intend to rush out directly. On the contrary, he still made a second set of Iron Man armor for himself as much as possible, and then climbed up to the ground carefully. If there is a choice, he would rather go to the underground passage before the 4th floor of the catacombs, and finally return to the ground farther away from the battlefield. It's a pity, in order to prevent the poisonous Andariel from escaping, the underground passage network was blown up by him. Now, he can only carefully crawl on the ground along the side wall. He has to wait until Mephisto can't see the side, and then climb up quickly. Fortunately, Tia and Sarah over there opened fire and fought back and forth with Mephisto. That guy had to deal with it with all his strength, which gave Ruger enough opportunities. But his original plan was to go directly to the Weasel tank after running up. The Weasel was the command tank that he had left behind before, which remotely controlled several 88 guns. But as soon as he got up, he found that not to mention the Weasel, even those 88 guns had been destroyed by Mephisto. Only the little lowly Gialia, holding the main control computer host on the Weasel, ran out of the battlefield under the cover of the Scorpio Witch Irina and the Aquarius Witch Isandra. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu Mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 460. This girl can actually use a computer. This was Ruger's first reaction. Google search reading. Oh, she controlled those artillery to join the battle, so she was easily killed by Mephisto. This was his second reaction. In fact, this is almost the same process. How to say it, if it weren't for Mr. Max's experience, Ruger might have made that mistake. He used to think that Mr. Max was probably a time traveler, just like himself, from the details of his experience described by many people. It was not until later that it was confirmed that he was just a genuine lost one, and he was also favored by the World Stone Fragment, so he had those magical performances on both the technological side and the magical side. In short, that person also had a cheat, a golden finger, and the treatment of the son of the plane, so he was definitely a protagonist. But, he was really not a time traveler. Now this Gialia, there are some details that look like a time traveler. But Ruger thought again. As the second generation of the ancient Nephilim, she and her father had paid attention to this world of the Lost Ones. It seemed reasonable that she knew some Lost One technologies and learned some Lost One languages. After all, what kind of time traveler's golden finger can be compared with the super big cheat of the daughter of Lasma? Imagine if Ruger had just become a time traveler and participated in the novice lottery, he would directly draw the template of the son of Lasma. A big cheat like the son of God or demigod. Because Gialia's cheat was big enough and the thigh she hugged was thick enough, Ruger no longer thought about whether she was a time traveler or not. Isn't it just knowing how to use a computer? The Lost Ones can do it. Isn't it just knowing how to use a computer to fire a cannon? There are also people in the Lost Ones who can do it. So, he no longer cared about Gialia's side, and turned his attention to Mephisto. At this time, Mephisto also shrank to a size of 4 or 5 meters. But he has no lower body, only a bony tail, and relies on the evil spirit energy below to lift his body and float in the air, so his overall height appears high. After becoming smaller, the most obvious change in his fighting style compared to before is that the speed of releasing magic has become faster. Especially those Nova magics that are both offensive and defensive. This is also easy to understand, because his size has become smaller, and the Nova magic required has actually shrunk. With less consumption, the release is naturally faster. Tia relied on her flexible body to move around him, looking for opportunities, but the effect was not good, and she was strictly guarded by Mephisto. On the other side, Sarah tried to use long-range magic to bombard him from the outside, but it was difficult to break through the Nova magic. Seeing this, Gialia, who was carried away by Irina and Isandra, couldn't bear it anymore and shouted, "You can't use long-range attacks against this guy, don't even think about shooting at him. Use close combat to hit him." Sarah on the other side couldn't help but laugh bitterly, "You were so excited when you used the artillery array to hit him just now, and now you say this." Gialia said embarrassedly, "I also wanted to help. Besides, I didn't know those cannons were so weak. Those things are very powerful in that guy's hands." "Of course, how can you compare with Luigi?" Tia interrupted at this time. "Humph, open your mouth and shut your mouth, Luigi, if he really has such great ability, why doesn't he show up?" Gialia turned her head away with a pout. As a result, she saw Luigi crawling out of the catacombs. Yeah, he appeared. What? Luigi, for a moment, Tia, Sarah, and even Anya, who had retreated to the back, couldn't help but look at Luigi. Mephisto over there naturally saw him too. Ruger couldn't help but smile bitterly, and waved his hand to everyone. "How are you? Long time no see." How is it possible?" Mephisto was the most shocked. "How can you still be alive, just a mortal?" But before Ruger could reply, he immediately said fiercely, "It doesn't matter. Since you are not dead yet, I will send you off again." As he said that, he actually fired the Demon Skull Evil Spirit missile at Ruger again. But this time, he fired 6 shots in a row. If Tia hadn't seen that things were not going well and immediately rushed over to hit him with a combo, Mephisto would have wanted to fire more than a dozen shots this time until Ruger was killed. Compared with the panicked Tia, Ruger was actually quite calm. After all, he had made a qualitative leap in the 3 attributes of consciousness before, and the magic he was least afraid of was the type of soul will attack such as the evil spirit missile. It's a bit crazy to say that he is immune to mental magic, but at least he doesn't take much damage from this kind of damage, or even this kind of control. But although he was not panicking, he didn't want to wait for death on the spot. Seeing the ghost missiles rushing towards him, he immediately dodged to the side. However, the ghost missiles have built-in tracking capabilities. Seeing him move to the side, the ghost skull in the air immediately corrected its direction and chased him. However, as soon as the ghost missiles changed direction, Luger jumped to the side and before landing, he took out the rocket booster, gave himself a huge acceleration in an instant, and rushed back to the original direction. Now those ghost missiles were in trouble. They had already drawn an arc to chase him, and now he suddenly turned back, and the speed was so fast that the ghost missiles had to change direction again. As a result, if you look down from the sky, you can see that they drew an S shape directly. But even though the curvature of the second arc was very large, it did not hit Luger. 6 missiles, the closest one just brushed the tail of Luger's rocket booster. Although the demon skull evil spirit penetrated the booster and directly damaged the structure inside, this thing was a consumable for Luger and did not cause any substantial damage to him. Even the damage to property. On the other side, Mephisto gritted his teeth when he saw this, raised his hand and used 3 consecutive lightning novas to force Tia back, and immediately took the opportunity to prepare the next round of attacks against Luger. But at this time, Sarah on the other side of the battlefield had taken the opportunity to run to Luger and protect him behind her. As if she realized that her actions were a bit disrespectful to her man, Sarah immediately half-turned and whispered to Ruger, "Hey, why did you insist on me bringing that guy Belial up here?" As soon as she asked this question, she changed from she felt that Ruger was too weak, so she had to come here to protect him to she came to discuss confidential matters with Ruger that Mephisto couldn't hear. Not only did she save Ruger's face, but she also made it natural for her to come here to protect him. Even though Ruger didn't care about these things deep down in his heart, he still had to secretly praise Sarah's thoughtfulness. Just the question itself made Ruger at a loss for words. "Why, you haven't absorbed his Demon King essence yet to make up for the loss he absorbed from you before?" Ruger asked in confusion.